Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we will go ahead and talk something about the get absolute URL method. So this is the code which I have added up over here, and what this is that it's actually a function for this item model. So now let's understand why exactly would we need the get absolute URL method. So as we have created a class-based create view, which is this view right here, which is create item, what happens is that in case of a class-based view, we also need to mention the URL where we want Django to redirect us when that item is created. So in order to specify that URL, we have this get absolute URL method. So let's now take a look at the code inside this method. So this method will return us reverse. So reverse is actually a method, and you also need to import the reverse method up over here from the Django.urls package. So now once you use this reverse method, there are two things which you need to pass in to the reverse method. So as the job of this get absolute URL method is to go ahead and redirect us to a new page, what we want to do is that whenever the user creates an item, we want Django to redirect us to the detail view of that specific item. So let's say if you add a new item like burger, and let's say if you specify the details of that burger in the add item form, we should then be redirected to the detail page of that particular item, which is burger. Henceforth, what we do is that we pass in food:detail over here. This means that we need Django to redirect us to the detail URL. So if you go to the urls.py file right here, as you can see, this thing right here is nothing but the URL for detail, and this is why we have specified this name over here. So what Django does is that when Django reads this line of code, it understands that it needs to visit the detail URL of the food app. So the detail URL of the food app is nothing but this thing right here, and henceforth what happens is that Django would now redirect us to this specific detail view, which is nothing but this URL right here, which is nothing but the URL for the detail page of that particular item. However, if you take a look at this URL also accepts the primary key of that item as well, because unless and until you have a primary key of a particular item, you cannot redirect us to that specific item's detail page. Henceforth, in this particular reverse function or the reverse method, you also need to pass in the primary key up over here. So in order to pass in the primary key, we have used this quarks over here, which stands for keyword arguments. So whenever you need to pass in some keyword arguments to the reverse function, you use the quarks parameter up over here. And here we have made a reference to the primary key using self.pk, and we have passed in that primary key as pk, and once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So for this specific lecture, make sure that you add this line of code here, which is for importing the reverse method or the reverse function, and then you also go ahead and add this method up over here as well. And the reason why this is actually pre-typed over here is because I forgot to go ahead and explain this line of code from the previous lecture. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.